Hey, welcome to Squidly Bits. I'm Squidmar, and this is a channel where we do quicker and less planned content. We had this idea to try out a new series, so I guess if you like this type of video, let us know in the comment section. You can also subscribe, because this is where we're gonna do quick Squidmar content, so it might be nice to be subscribed. What do I know? I'm just Squidmar. So I guess this whole video, and if we do more in this video series, is to talk about good things in amazing miniature paint jobs. And this specific one is one that Richard Gray did. I'm gonna put his link in the video description. And he did this in probably just 1 or 2 days or 3 evenings, I don't know. I'm gonna talk about why this is an amazing paint job and what you can take away from it and what you can learn from it. Yeah, I guess that's it. Let's just jump into it. I think the first thing we see when we back it out is how reflective it looks. It really does look like gold. And there's a couple of reasons why it does that. The first one is obviously the placement of the highlights. And Richard is an amazing person at finding sort of these shapes. And he's made it quite simple for us with figuring out where the light is coming from. We can see that his brightest highlight on the head is up here on the top forehead. So that means that it's coming from above and slightly from the side. So I'm guessing it's like a sun or a cloudy day with the sun kind of diffused, but it's coming from sort of this angle down on him. Just the fact that he took his time to actually make a directed light source. It's not just, you know, what we normally paint when we are not as good as Richard Gray. We paint like the light coming from just above. And it's actually having like a specific angle on his light, and that reflects in his paint job. Another thing that he does is he works with not just like the local shapes, so to say. If we take a look at the chest here, he's painted it like a sphere. So how can we tell this? Well, if we would have had a cylinder here and the light is coming from this way, we would have the highlight sort of coming in like this. And we would have darker in the bottom, and we'd have the brightest point at the top. You can see here at the top part, he's made it the brightest. And if we block that out, you can see that there's pretty much just shadows in the bottom half. And I think that's one of the first thing that really catches my eyes, is that he worked with the general shape of the armor, which is sort of like this spherical shape, and placed the highlight at the top. But because this isn't just like a straight up sphere, it actually got more things to it. He's also highlight all of the different separate parts, but not as much. So he's placed highlights on this side here, and this side here, and this side here, but they never go as bright as they are at the top part. So again, if we would have like a regular light, and from just above, we would have just as much light on this side here, and they would have to mirror each other, and it would not look nearly as good. So kudos again to Richard for making an amazing decision on where the light would be coming from, because it just adds so much to the depth of the miniature and makes it feel more real, because it's got a direction of light. And the second thing that I really want to applaud him on with this is the secondary light, the reflection coming back up. So he's used more of like an orange tone. He's got light bouncing up from the ground again. So you can see sort of the ground reflecting all over the armor. So you can see, especially up here, you can see that it's a little bit more orange on the bottom part here, as compared to, you can see that the deepest shadow is on this area. And it has light bouncing up here. Same thing here, he's got light bouncing up. On the leg part, he's got light bouncing up. And he's got these highlights, but they're never as bright as the top highlights at the top. And he did the same thing with the shield as he did with the chest plate, creating the brightest points at the top, creating like the sphere shape that it has, placing really bright, sort of pale yellowy tones up here. And then the further down he gets, the less of these he has. Except for like some areas that are super raised, like here on the mustache of the golden armor down here. And analyzing painters like this and seeing how they place the highlights on like these raised edges. But you can see down here, it's almost dark, even though this one is angled towards the sky. If we would have like a more all-around light, but since it's a directional light, he does not have to add as much highlight to this area, because it's gonna be in shadow. So this one, on the other hand, perfect, looks amazing, really good. And another thing you can see is because he's so good at placing lights, it does not have to be as smooth. You can see on these transitions that you have this sort of like beige tone as the final highlight, and you have this sort of yellowy tone, and there's like a hard edge between these. But because he's so good at placing them, it looks super smooth and your eye kind of fills out the parts in between. And he only goes to super white on areas where he wants to put extra focus. So it's around like the face area, around the knee pad and the top of the shield, and otherwise he never goes quite as bright. Just a few dots here and there to like punch out these reflective areas. Same thing with the silver here, super bright at the top on the angles that are sort of like super fixed towards the light. This area here, and then it's a lot darker. And when he does that, not highlighting every single one as much, it gets so much more depth. Can probably make a comparison so you can see how much less good it would look if every single part was highlighted that much. And the shield would not at all feel as sort of round as it does right now. So if we compare that to that, you can see how much more volume it gets, and that's what makes it amazing. He's done the same thing on the sort of kilt or whatever you want to call this part. He's made the decision that it's sort of a rounder shape and that it's got more shade in the bottom. So even though he's highlighted every single piece individually, he's also done it generally, meaning that the top part, like the top part has the brightest points. It's got whites up here. And then on these ones up here, his like middle light is brighter actually than his bottom parts are. And then he just gradually adds less and less highlights and go darker and darker in both the mid-tone highlights and shadows. The secondary highlights though, that's kind of what sells it for me up here with like the orangey tones, and down with the shield, the orangey tones, so good. You can see as well up here on the lightnings how the light is sort of collecting at the bottom part. That's a mistake a lot of people do when they're painting non-metallic metals. As an example, up here on the shoulder pads, these are probably more like ceramide or some other type of like painted material that's not reflective metal. So the light collects on the top and like on the flat surfaces towards the viewer. But on this paint job with the metallics, he's done that the light bounces down to the bottom of each of these different parts, creates a separation between the different areas, even though it's a really slight one, small one, looks really good. And he creates a really strong black line between all of the different parts. You can see it's pitch black between the different parts. Up here it's pitch black, only like the surfaces towards the viewer are painted with the yellow, and then it's got harsh black lines between all of the different parts, and it really separates the different parts even though they're so small and so sort of close together. They look separate and huge. It really brings out the whole piece. And yeah, I think that's kind of the things that really makes me happy about this piece. It makes me feel something, makes it look like a real thing. And yeah, the hammer again looks amazing. Really good transition from really dark black to these like mid-tone grays, and then adding these battle damages to really make it feel like a hammer. And then not going super bright on almost any parts except for these edges up here that's gonna be reflecting the light to separate the different parts. And yeah, he just sells the effects so well. I really like that I can see the brush strokes. To me, that makes something feel more alive. So to me, that we have these different parts where you can actually see the brush strokes, like this kind of stuff that it does up here, just makes me super happy and makes it feel more alive to me than if you would have just done, you know, the airbrush smoothing or glazing to death. This makes me feel something more. I guess that's it. Go check out Richard Gray's artwork. If you like my videos, subscribe. If you are new to Squidmar, you can check out my main channel, Squidmar Miniatures. If you want to support the channel, there's a couple of ways you can do that on my website, squidmar.com. I've listed all the tools that I use when I paint miniatures and record videos. You can also check out my Patreon and pledge a few dollars. It's thanks to the patrons that I can take out the full salary. So with that said, if you want to see more of these quick videos, let me know in the comment section. I guess that's it. Have a great day. Bye bye.